is it 7 or 8 episodes? I thought it was 8.
I hope that it wraps up. Welcome to The Right Advice. I'm Randy.
And I'm Amber. Today we're going to talk about episode 6 of Willow, the series on Disney+. Randy, your initial reaction?
I am going to really struggle on rating this because episode 6 has probably my favorite moment of the series so far, and it has had some of the worst moments of the series so far. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to rate it when we get at the end of the show.
For me, my first reaction is there's definitely more stuff in it that I liked than the last episode, but the things that were bad about it were so bad that to me it overall wasn't much better. It just I can't do enough head shaking. It's just awful. It's just awful. Let's go ahead and jump right into stuff that you liked, and this is more of a general turn, and then we'll go to the scene.
All right, so the storyline with Mad Mardigan, I enjoy, of course. Okay, spoiler alert, it's not really Mad Mardigan. However, it's Christian Slater, and Christian Slater is an excellent actor. I wish we could see more of him in cinema today, and we're not. He is excellent with his character, and most of the scenes with him flow well. Mm-hmm. I mean, because of his acting, but also because they didn't mess with his character too much like they do with the other characters. His character is the only one that stands out as being an individual different than the others. Anyone else, this you pointed out to me, you can interchange the dialogue between the characters, and it doesn't matter. All the dialogue other than Christian Slater's sounds like it could come from anyone in the show.
I would have to say that Christian Slater was the thing that I liked the most about the show as well, or about this episode, mainly because I thought he was an interesting character. I was really intrigued that this was another guy who had gone off with Mad Mardigan. He had some more history about Mad Mardigan, but also you didn't know if he was a good guy or a bad guy. But I am actually going to disagree a little bit. I don't think he stood out as much as he could have with the dialogue, and it's a big problem for me in the series is that all the characters talk like they're the same. He definitely had some interesting things going on where he was trying to trick everybody and tell lies, so you really couldn't tell what was going on, but Borman was a little bit like that. And his banter was a little bit more like the others, but he did have that I like to sing songs thing going, so I felt like could have been used better, but it was at least an additional element to his type of dialogue, is that he was a bit poetic.
It did seem kind of throwaway the way they used it. I agree with that.
All right, let's move on to the juicy stuff. What we didn't like. Go ahead.
No, I would like you to go first because there's 2 things I didn't like, and maybe you'll cover one of them.
Okay, so which one would you like to hear about? The bad filmmaking choices, the bad writing choices, the bad tension or mood changing choices, or stuff that didn't get amplified?
You know what, I'm going to go with the tension, so I'll go first.
Okay, you go.
So what we have here, and this has happened throughout the series, is they establish a scene which should have some lovely tension in it to draw you along. I mean, that's the purpose of tension, is that something's going on and you want to see what's going to happen next. Tension does that. However, we have too many scenes throughout this series where they've established some tension and then they've got to throw in some stupid jokes. Jokes that they have nothing to do with what's going on, really, right? They're just kind of made up because I'm guessing the writers or the directors like, no, we need a joke right here. 1:35, 1 minute, 35 seconds in, we need this joke. And they don't. They don't seem to understand that with you kill the tension, you kill the mood, and then it ruins anything that you're hoping to accomplish with it. And they do this over and over in this.
I wrote some down. Do you want me to go through some of them? Some of the instances?
Well, I can give one. So we have this great Borman and Mardigan's,
Allagash.
Allagash, there we go. And Allagash, right, they meet. And they know each other from the past, right? Which is intriguing. We're like, oh my goodness, we're going to get some great backstory with Mad Mardigan. And there's obviously tension with them. And they start a fight. instead of us watching the fight, they go to some stupid discussion. I think it was like,
Well,
oh, by the way, I lost the wand.
Yeah, well, first they panned to Kit and Jade reuniting, and oh my goodness, my love is safe again, which takes away from the tension of that
Right.
impending fight. And then they start talking, start having Elora Danan and Willow talking about how she lost the wand. And instead of it being this horrific, devastating thing, he just says something like, we really are the worst apprentice ever, or something silly like that. And we are trying to find out if Mad Mardigan is dead or alive, and here is somebody who knows, and we don't get to watch that reunion happen. So yeah.
Right, good shows. I mean, I can think of a lot of movies and series where one of the most memorable things is like the big fight between friends or former friends, right? And hopefully they'll reconcile, right? But that's really memorable. I mean, there's an episode of Star Trek where the planet is pulling memories from the people's minds, or maybe not memories, but thoughts from the people's mind and project them, making them real. And Kirk has this awesome duke it out fight with someone that he had run-ins with during Starfleet Academy days, right? And that, for me, is one of the most memorable episodes ever because of that scene. And we could have had that in this episode, but they cut to the really stupid stuff that like we could have heard at any time or seen at any time, and so we lose that.
Yeah, I think the first instance we saw in this episode was when we were looking at Eric. So Eric is in the Immemorial City. We haven't seen him we've only seen him once at the end of episode, I think, 4. So I was really interested in what's going on with him. And suddenly he's hearing the crone's voice, and the door opens, and it says something like, hey, come here, or something beckoning of some sort. And he gets up and walks away. We're spooked. He's in a very strange, abandoned place. And his dialogue was something like, nope, not going to happen, or something like that. And just that line made it a silly moment instead of a worrying moment. I mean, he's all alone with no weapons.
Yeah.
And the crone is there, so we know he's vulnerable. And now we don't feel like he's taking his own vulnerability seriously.
It kills the mood completely. And you can't get that back. Because once you make that pithy, smart alecky comment, then that mood is ruined, and you can't be as serious. The audience isn't going to dive back into that mood that you'd already established. Yeah. And they did such a great job with that scene.
Yeah.
Other than that, those 2 lines right there. Other than that, that whole scene was excellent.
Why should we take it seriously, though, if the characters aren't taking it seriously? All right, did you have more on the breaking the tension stuff, or do you want to go over some of the...
That's good enough.
All right, so I had other notes generally about the filmmaking where I thought that there were a lot of moments they should have amplified what was happening. So I've got Elora Danan hears Kit's voice from the future. So this is her experiencing divination for the first time. We see her walking into the mine, and she looks over the edge, and we don't know it when this happens, but later on in the episode, she hears what Kit says later on in the episode. So she's hearing the future when she looks down. And it wasn't even distinguishable that it was Kit who was speaking, but it was.
I didn't pick up on it because...
I saw it because the subtitles were up.
Because it was boring.
It was boring. There was no moment where the music comes in mysteriously and the camera kind of zooms right up on her face a little bit to make it seem like this is an important moment. Also, we had Allagash and Kit. We get all of this backstory, which is super interesting, and there are a couple times where we hear Mad Mardigan's theme, which I was happy about, but honestly, it was like he was just spewing this information out as they're going on this adventure, and she's finding out if her dad is still dead or alive. Why was that seeming like a funny, adventurous moment? It wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't.
Then, let's see.
Let me talk on the music. Let me talk on the music.
Yeah.
So we did get a lot of the Willow music in the background, and for the first time, I think, since we've watched the series, it felt appropriate. I mean, until later on when they introduced some rock and roll music, and don't get me wrong, I love rock and roll music, but mood and everything is helped set by music, and if you bring in the wrong element, it ruins the mood and changes what you're watching. So for most of it, they did a good job. And that's what the whole series should have been like. And the whole series would be improved if they had been consistent with that.
Yeah, and so also things with that, camera work. I think we're supposed to, at this point, be picking up that Graydon knows more about magic than anybody else. Seemingly even more than Willow in some cases. And it seems like nobody else in the cast or the crew of the Fellowship notices this.
Cares.
And so why should we care? To me, it just seems like there's all this information. Now, this is a writing thing, less of a filmmaking thing. They have all this information that they are ready to put out, but just a teeny little bit at a time. And instead of taking the time to amplify that this is important, they're just sticking it in little bits of dialogue as they go. Like, oh, just put this little bit here and then, oh, quickly go past it. Put this little bit in the dialogue here and go past it quickly. And some of this stuff is important. For instance, Graydon reveals that he was sent by his father on this mission. The reason his father whispered to him was to tell him to try to kill Borman. And Borman turns around and goes, I knew it. But it was a joke. It was said as if, isn't that funny? And Graydon's even like, oh yeah, my daddy's, he's a schmook or something like that.
It just went through, and I thought like they're in their joke mode,
Yeah.
and anything they say in their joke mode, I just don't really care about. And I missed something important to the story.
Yeah, and so they're not playing up the things that are important, and it just goes not over your head, but you don't care about listening to it. I honestly don't care about what the characters are saying 90% of the time. And I'm only listening because I'm trying to catch these kind of things. Let's see, then we have, I think we need to talk about this. The trolls.
Do we have to?
I'm sure everyone else on YouTube is going to talk about it.
That was my other thing that I really didn't like about the show, yeah.
Yeah, so the trolls are now intelligent and sophisticated. They're
very suave.
Oh my gosh, it's so ridiculous. I mean, they were animalistic in the first movie. They didn't have a language as far as we knew. They were just beasts. But now
I hated the trolls.
Now they speak just as eloquently as any of the teenagers do. It's ridiculous. Anyway, let's take this out of the whole thing. I guess we could say this is explained by this elixir that they're making. So one of the trolls, I can't remember his name, it's like Celiac or something. Anyway, he explains that the crone taught us how to take this vermiscus and distill it into an elixir that makes us stronger and faster. Or that's what Borman, I think, explains that it does. It makes you stronger and faster. So I thought, okay, that could do something for them. Maybe that's why they're like this. Maybe that's why they're intelligent. But no intelligence was brought up. And so later we saw that the wand reacts to this elixir, I believe, or this vermiscus, because Alora's wand lights up. So I'm going, okay, maybe something with this is going to happen. But again, it wasn't played up. It was just kind of out there. But it did really bother me with the trolls quite a bit. They weren't scary at all.
They were silly.
They were very silly.
They were really silly.
And they were terrifying in the movie. I wish that there could be some real horror in this show.
Okay, and I'm going to disagree because I think there is real horror in this show. The horror comes from the fact that the trolls were cool in the movie, and now, oh my gosh, they are like so silly. I mean, I cannot watch them. I literally like, please just shut it off and go to a part where there are no trolls because I hate them that much.
And it goes back to the whole idea that there's not much variety. I mean, they couldn't have these beastly creatures. They had to have talking, bantering trolls, just like our talking, bantering teenagers.
Okay, so the Bone Reavers, they're not bad guys. And so apparently, I don't know, the trolls, maybe they're not bad guys either. I mean, maybe there's really no bad guys anywhere. They're just all things that are misunderstood and are pleasant in their own special evil way. And maybe we should love them. We should
just awful.
Group hug. Let's all get in for a group hug, okay?
Oh my goodness. How about that wand being so conveniently dropped and then immediately found right when it needed to be? Yeah. And we both, as soon as that wand fell, we were like, I'll bet they're going to go down there
and going to find it.
Happen to walk past it. Yep.
Yeah, there's only thousands of square foot of chasm down there where the wand could fall and get lost. But they conveniently find it.
And you brought up something that I didn't notice, but this was about Borman knew that this mine is where the Chimerian cuirass was, and possibly Mad Mardigan is trapped. And they didn't have to travel very far as we know, to get to this mine. So why didn't he try to convince them to go there before? Why did they have to get kidnapped to be brought there?
Right, they go there by accident, by no effort on their part, yet so much of this quest, I mean, I know the quest is to get Prince Eric, but you've got to think that now that they know that Mad Mardigan had a job to do to get this curiosity and everything, and it's important to the salvation of the human race, maybe if he knew that, he might drop a hint or two that we should go there. No. And even when they kidnap Willow, he doesn't go like, well, that might be convenient to rescue Willow because, the curiosity is there. No. We don't do that. We're just kind of surprised when we get there finally, and he's like, oh yeah, all the stuff is here. Okay. That'd have been nice to know.
It feels like the characters are being plunked into these locations for the convenience of having certain events happen, meetings happen, or dialogue or information come out. It doesn't feel like these people are on any quest. I honestly don't even feel like I know what stage they're at in the quest. Are they close to the shores of the Shattered Sea yet? I don't know.
I think maybe that they, like, for every episode when they're getting ready to write, they have the wheel of location or something, right? And they just spin it and like, okay, we're going to be here this episode, and then whatever we kind of had maybe planned will fit into that location from the wheel of location.
Oh my goodness. It feels very slapdash. And I have a theory about that, but I'm going to get to that when we do our predictions. All right, so was there anything else that you wanted to go over, stuff about the show we did not like, other than basically all the things they ruined?
No.
All these opportunities. It had more story, but they ruined what they did with it.
Most of it, yeah.
Do we want to go ahead and give our...
No, we haven't really done our favorite scene.
Favorite scene.
So my favorite scene is Borman and, Christian Slater's character.
Borman and Christian Slater, yeah.
Allagash. They talk about Mad Mardigan, right? And how they missed him and how they respect him. And you know what? That was a touching moment. Christian Slater's such a good actor. And then the actor who plays Borman is, in my mind, the best of the cast that they have assembled. And that came across very well. I mean, you kind of feel it. You feel that they both really respect Mad Mardigan and are ashamed of any wrongdoing on their part to betray him. So for me, that was really a strong scene, and I did like the scene where they're walking along. We're getting a ton of story about Allagash and Mad Mardigan. Okay, so we get a ton, and there's an example of doing it right. So if you watch that, you have the Willow music in the background. They're talking. They, for the most part, didn't include any silly stuff right there.
There was, but it somewhat was appropriate because it was about the misunderstanding. You betrayed him. No, I didn't. You did. Yeah.
And the lovable scoundrel really is the character on any story that is allowed to get away with being a little bit flippant. That is part of the archetype, right? The other characters should be way more serious. And anyway, so that was... Yeah, those were great. They were really good. The best part of this series so far, in my opinion.
And then they killed him off right away. He was there to give some information and then disappear, which we saw that happen with the two lumberjack ladies earlier.
Or whatever they were.
Yeah, fae thingies. Yeah, who knows what they were.
Red shirts.
Red shirts. For me, my favorite scene was getting into the tomb. And I don't mean the process of the Wizard of Oz head that they had to get past with the riddle, which was kind of the Wizard of Oz and the labyrinth, wasn't it? Anyway, so I don't feel like that's... Okay, the scene in the tomb. Let's just focus on that. The scene in the tomb. I was expecting the answers to what happened to Mad Mardigan to be in there, and it kind of was. It seems that there is a portal in this tomb, and the Chimerian cuirass, which was so much the focus of Borman, was a side feature in this instance. I felt like they should have played that up a little bit more. But I mean, I have my favorite scene, but I can't think of anything but my complaints about it. But I liked what the potential of this scene was, because this is Kit maybe finding her dad. And so they did focus on Kit. Hooray, good there. I was a little disappointed that there were no visual effects for that portal. I know the camera tricks that they used to make the lighting happen, and it is basically the most minimalistic thing you can possibly do. It seems like there's a board with some mist or fog machine going and a light off to the side. That's it. That's our portal special effect. I mean,
It was underwhelming.
isn't this a fantasy? I mean,
Apparently not that part.
yeah, so I would have liked to have seen something there, and there wasn't. But my favorite scene was the tomb, and mainly because I felt like this was the most potential for big answers to be revealed, and they somewhat were.
And it felt most like an actual quest, right? I mean,
Yeah, it did.
these are the things that you want in a high fantasy quest. So it was most true to the original Willow that I think that we've seen.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and she got her father's sword. So I recognized that sword as soon as I saw it. I've seen the movie a million times.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to our predictions?
Okay.
Predictions? Okay, so do you want to go first?
I'm going to let you, because I don't really have a prediction. I'm kind of like veering off the reservation on this one, off script, right? So you go.
Okay, so mine, I had to take my notes on, oh my goodness. Okay, so I think that portal in the tomb leads to the modern world and the current real life Earth modern world. This is why we see Faye had clothing from a different time period, and why the Brownies, the one gal had the what was her
Concert
name?
shirt.
Yeah, she had a concert shirt. It was somebody said it was the Ramones in
The
our comments.
Ramones, yeah.
So if that's what that was, that's what I think it is. I think that it is a portal to another world, this world, the current real world, because Willow explained that there are portals to other dimensions and other worlds. So that's what I think is going on there. I also think that we have now seen this golden elixir stuff that was being made. Kit has fallen into it, and Eric has drunken it. So I think it's going to react with their Bavmorda blood, the blood that they have that's bad or whatever, something like that. I think that that's going to be significant. I suspect that it's what makes the original tree the source of all magic that the wand came from. It's what gives it its magic. That's why the wand reacted. I think that's all connected. So that's my prediction there.
I think it's too close to the vat of radioactive sludge that turns people into superheroes. I think she's going to be turned into a superhero.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because it's supposed to make you super strong and super fast. So both of them, they're going to have to duke it out at the end. Do you think this will be an Eric versus Kit in the end? Like a brother and sister, or he gets turned bad and now she's super powerful and good and they have to fight each other?
Maybe. We hardly see Eric, so it's easy to forget that he's part of the story, and it makes me think that the writers have forgotten that he's part of the story.
Yeah, they could have sped up his stuff a little bit more. I mean, all he did was find out that the world he's in, he can't leave. He can't leave the city because he is automatically looped back to it, which they could have shown that with multiple instances of him trying, instead of just, we see him leave and he comes back and he goes, that's impossible. He wouldn't have had to say that's impossible if we had seen him try to walk away from it twice, at least twice, and still come back to it and then get scared or panicky that he can't escape.
And if we're talking tension, the way that I would have done it is the original scene, opening scene with him is fine, but then I would have dropped in very short scenes of him moving, and we think he's moving farther away. We think he's escaping, and then at the very end, boom, he's back, right? Because we get that tension. It's like, yeah, he's going to escape, right? And then the carpet's yanked out from underneath us, and we realize he's not. Okay, so I'm not going to go with a prediction. What I have is, I love the idea of the portal, and another one of the scenes I felt that they did well, you talked about this, is Mad Mardigan talking to the princess.
Through the door? Yeah, through the portal.
Through the portal, and saying that the reason I went where I went was so that you could take care of the most important thing there.
Actually, it was Allagash who told this to Kit. So the only thing that we heard Mad Mardigan's voice saying was something like, help me, whatever. And that's why she wanted to do that. That's okay, but that information though.
Okay, so with that information, and then we see the portal, and I'm like, I want that story. Okay, and Disney, I am totally open to be able to write that story, and I promise I will have the great tension, the great scenes, and I will be continuously, mindful of the characters being unique individuals in the story. See Madmartigan go wherever he went and whatever adventure he's currently on. I am so on that. Go ahead and give me a call, and we'll talk.
I could definitely get behind a Madmartigan spinoff. I would miss Saoirse and Willow, though.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention one of my, it's not a prediction, but it is a theory about the show. My theory
That is not
this.
going to have a season 2.
Well, yeah, so that's a prediction. I think
That's my theory.
Yes. I have a theory about the origins of this show. I suspect that somebody had an idea for a show where a bunch of kids get together and go on this quest, and there's lots of portals that go to the modern world and other worlds, and these crazy adventures happen. And somebody said, that's a great idea, but it's a bit out there, and I don't know if we're going to be able to draw an audience. And then somebody in the room said, I have an idea. Why don't we call it a Willow sequel? Just put, the same actor in there, a couple of them, and reference some of their names, and there you go. You got a show with a pre-existing audience just waiting to eat it up. And I believe that is how this show came to be, because it's so disconnected from the original. And
it could.
Yeah.
And here's the shame of it, because that idea is
a good idea.
Is a good idea, pretty original. I mean, we haven't seen too much of it. And if we know that we are specifically supposed to be seeing these on purpose, then we're a little more tolerant of the fact that we're kind of mixing genres and time zones and realities and everything else. I would totally tune in to watch. Sorry, we don't tune in anymore. That's old people talk. For we would stream. We would watch a stream on the show. So I would totally watch that. That is a great
I think it'd be
idea.
interesting. Yeah, so that's my theory about how this show came about, and it's a shame that they didn't go that route, because I don't think anybody will be willing to make a Willow sequel again after the inevitable flop of this one. I know it's getting terrible reviews basically everywhere, and I can see why. It's nonsensical to the point that it's even difficult to critique because it makes so little sense.
Okay, time for our ratings.
All right, what do you give it?
I'm going to give it a 6 because there are some strong elements in this, and Christian Slater was great. So I enjoyed portions of it.
Okay. I mean, I did enjoy some portions of it, but I'm so upset with this show. I mean, trying to judge it on its own, I think I would give it maybe a 4 or 5. The last episode was like between a 1 and a 2, but I'm harsh.
I'm thinking that's the best rating you've given it.
I think my first one was a 5. I don't think I've gone above 5.
You have not.
So, yeah. This show to me is not one that I would watch on my own. It just has no appealing characters. I don't like what they've done with Kit at all. I don't think it makes sense, and they've given her no clear arc of redemption except in her romance. And the character Jade is still really only here as a side story. It's really hard to get behind her changing for Jade when I don't feel like Jade's presence in this story is important to the overall plot, because she's not proven herself so far to be much greater of a protector than anybody else in the group. I mean, if she was the one who was always going out and, I don't know, doing the hunting or tracking, like she was the knowledgeable one, but they're all just kind of meandering, and occasionally they have to fight people. But they all can kind of fight now, so anyway. All right, that is what we've got for this episode. We hope that you will join us for episode 7.
7, which I believe wraps it up.
Yeah, is it 7 or 8 episodes? I thought it was 8.
I hope that it wraps up.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I gotta say, I do hope that it ends soon too, because I'm tired of this. It's getting to the point that I don't even know what to say other than the things I've already said.
Yeah, and don't forget that I'm still predicting a musical for the last episode.
I will stick around for the musical, definitely. And if you want to stick around for the musical too, please subscribe, and you will be getting updates on when we're putting out new videos. I think that's it. Yes?
That's it.
All right.
Later.
See ya.